Okay, if I want to create a square given a segment, so I'm going to let side NO be, or segment NO be a side that's in my square. I can envision that I've got to have lines coming from point N and coming from point O that are perpendicular to segment NO. And it's not as easy to do a square as it is to do a rhombus, because on a square I've got to create the right angles, whereas on a rhombus I don't. So my first step here is going to be to create a right angle. If I'll do one right angle, then all of the other right angles will take care of themselves. So to do that, I need to begin by extending line NO. And I want to extend it in such a way that N is the midpoint. So for right now, I'm just going to extend it far enough that I know I've got the distance covered. Like a little too far. Okay. Then I'm going to take my length of my compass and measure the length of NO. Stretch my compass to that width. Okay. And then I'll move my anchor point to N. Make me a little mark right here. And I really, that point doesn't need to be named. If we want to name it, we can. Let's name it something a little off the wall. Because when I finish, I'm going to name my square PQ in alphabetical order. So let's just name this point Z for right now. It's not going to be a point that's in my square. It's just a point that's helping me make my right angle. Okay, so now you would agree with me that N is definitely the midpoint of segment ZO. So if I will find the perpendicular bisector of segment ZO, then I know it's going to pass through N. So it's going to make a right angle at the point where I want it to make a right angle. So to find the perpendicular bisector, we need to go a little ways past. And let's see, I'm going to need to move all this stuff down. Let's see if I can do that. Okay, there we go. Got to move it down because my marks will go off my page a little bit. All right, let's lock it. Okay, so I'm going to find the perpendicular bisector. I'm going to go a little bit more than halfway. And I already know where halfway point is. That's nice. So I'll do a point at O. Let's do a point from Z. Okay, so I got my intersection point between those two arcs. To know that it's going to pass through N. So I didn't have to do my arcs along the bottom. Okay, and I just created a right angle. Now the way I'm going to choose to build mine is I'm going to find point P somewhere underneath point N instead of going above, just because of how I'm doing mine on the software. But you could certainly go above if you wanted to. All right, so now that I have one right angle, I will ensure it's just like making a rhombus now. So I'm going to measure my length, my segment length of NO. And I'm going to whip that around so that I have an intersection point along my line here. And I just found a point P that is on my square. And now I know that if I create a square, there's got to be a point coming from P. Notice how I'm not moving the compass with. There's got to be a point Q somewhere over here from point P. And then there's got to be a point Q that comes from point O. So if I'll find the intersection point of those two arcs, I just located my point Q. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Let's label this intersection point Q. And use my straight edge to join P to Q and Q to O. And I'll have myself a square. And there we go. There is square NOPQ.